All right, good afternoon and welcome to our town hall that is sponsored by the Governmental Relations Committee. To begin this afternoon's program, I'd ask you to honor America by standing and joining me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence to honor those who are serving our great nation in uniform. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and please be seated. This afternoon, we're going to be joined by Mayor Foster. Will be joining us a little bit later, and he's coming this afternoon so that he can answer any questions that Ethan's not able to answer as we get into the question and answer portion of the program. What we're going to do this afternoon is our guest speaker, Ethan Hadley, who is the president and CEO of the Crossville Cumberland County Chamber of Commerce, will make some remarks, and then after that we'll open the floor for questions. Ethan Hadley was selected to lead the Crossville Cumberland County Chamber of Commerce as the Chamber's President and Chief Executive Officer in September of 2019. Ethan has nearly 20 years of experience in the area of economic development. He relocated from Lawrence County, Tennessee, and his previous experience includes serving as the Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce President and Economic Developer, and from 2004 to 2013, he served as the Vice President of Economic Development for the Huntsville, Alabama Chamber of Commerce. Ethan also spent 5 years living in Tokyo, Japan, serving first as a teacher and then working in advertising and industrial recruitment for the state of Alabama, and he is fluent in Japanese. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm Fairfield Glade welcome to Ethan Hadley.
Thanks, Hen. Everybody hear me okay? Not too loud? Okay. I think I'll start this off by asking for a show of hands if you're from Tennessee originally. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, I also obviously am not from Tennessee, or wasn't born here, but reside here now. I did live in Japan for 15 years, so I just got 10 years cut off that sentence, Ken. I've spent 5 years with the state of Alabama over there, bringing industry back to Alabama, which it's nice to be in Tennessee, just got to say. Yeah, so not being from here is clearly you're in the majority. Welcome, good afternoon, Mayor Foster. We need a chair right up here on stage. Let's get that. Yeah, so no, but I've been blessed to be here since I started in November of 2019, so right before we got COVID. And if you know anything about chambers of commerce, it's really hard to do the gripping and grinning and everything else that goes with being in a community position like that under those circumstances. But obviously that's small change compared to everything else that we were dealing with and continue to deal with regards to that. You'll see some pictures on this presentation today that are less than optimal. Those are the ones pilfered from the internet, so Fairfield Glade is not as crisp and clean as I'd like to have it here on this map, but and it's kind of squeezed in there between county and commerce, but believe me, I do understand the importance of Fairfield Glade to Cumberland County and very much appreciate this development and the uniqueness that it gives us as a county in a great state. So I'm going to go through these slides. Normally I would do it interactively, so you just raise your hand to a question. I've been told that that's all happening at the end, so please, when you do have questions, then head back to the mic. And I'm also never tried doing what I'm going to try to do from a watch before, so we'll see if this works. Okay, some numbers. In 1598, there were 0 chambers of commerce in the world until they started one in France. 1768, New York City, first American Chamber of Commerce. 1961, the Crossville Cumberland County Chamber of Commerce was started. 2021, we celebrated our 60th birthday, and 13,000 is the number of total chambers, approximate number of total chambers of commerce in the world. About a third of those are in the United States. So that's just a little bit of chambery stuff. You can see, like I said, we celebrated our 60th birthday here at the Depot downtown last summer, and it's good to have the turnout that we have for events. It's been a little bit impacted by COVID and stuff, but they're gradually starting to build back. And would invite you all as members of the Fairfield Glade Community Club, which is a member of the Chamber of Commerce. You're a member by extrapolation. So if we have an event, you might have to pay $10 or whatever the event cost is, and some of them are free, but you are all welcome as members, de facto members of the Chamber of Commerce. Old adage in the chamber world is if you've seen one chamber, you've seen one. So, anybody here ever worked for a Chamber of Commerce? Good. Then I can lie from here on out. No. So if you've seen one Chamber of Commerce, you've seen one. And there are a lot of common threads that run through Chambers of Commerce, some things that all Chambers of Commerce do. For example, a Chamber of Commerce represents a specific geographic area. That's their service territory. That's true of any Chamber of Commerce in the world. What they do in the day-to-day and what their mission statements say vary greatly. So I'll talk a little bit about who we are. Jordan Profit, Melanie Graham, Kathy Ingram, and myself, we're the chamber staff. And Jordan is a member specialist, so it basically means jack of all trades. He does everything from answer the phone to help set up for events, to send out relocation packs to people who are interested in moving here. Everything, pretty much everybody in our organization, because of the size it is, we have a common inbox, and everybody pretty much has to be able to do everything, which is good. There's cross-training, there's the ability to deal with sickness and vacations and things like that. Kathy runs the visitor center on I-40. Have y'all been there? Genesis Road exit, River Otter Drive, kind of between I-40 and Stone Memorial High School. It's a great little visitor center, and with Buc-ee's coming in, you know, that Genesis Road exit's going to start getting pounded a lot more than it's been in the past, and it's a great resource for the region. So if you come to the Chamber of Commerce, you're going to find our rack card wall and our business cards and everything. That's primarily local for our members. That visitor center has stuff that you can find on Burgess Falls or Fall Creek Falls or anything that's around us, Dollywood, et cetera. Melanie Graham is a rock star. Honest to goodness. Everybody in an organization that's at the top of the heap needs somebody like a Melanie, and there's really no other like a Melanie. So don't tell her I said that, she'll get a big head. You know who this is, right? Okay. My dad told me about this when I was really young. I think probably one of the first times we ever threw a football. But you remember what he said when he held up that football, right? That this is a football. You know why he did that? Because about the same day or around the same day the chamber was being formed here in Crossville, they were coming back from getting absolutely pounded the year before in football. And they had to come back and reinvent themselves. And he was the new coach, and he basically started from scratch. And that's what we did with the chamber too. So if you look at the membership over this period from 2012 to 2022, it doesn't look good. I don't care if you can read a graph or not. That's pretty astounding drop in members, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But so we're in a rebuilding process here, and the good thing is that we've got a lot of positives to build upon, and we're up at about 440 members. When I came in and was able to clear out our membership database, we actually stood at about 340, so we are now up 100 or 100 or thereabouts since that time in 2019. So what is the football? I mean, that's pretty much what you're doing. And again, without the staff that is willing to invest their time, really it's a 24/7, 365 job. If you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce and people know it, they find you in the community, whether it's at church or the supermarket or where have you, to ask what's happening on the corner of Peavine and I-40, or when's Chick-fil-A going to open. It's a job that's always going. What does your Chamber of Commerce do? Well, like I said, we're all different. One thing you need to remember is that our Chamber of Commerce is the Crossville-Cumberland County Chamber of Commerce, and we represent every nook and cranny of this county. From a tourism perspective, a lot of times you're talking about the most recognizable place. Almost always you're talking about the most recognizable place in the county. And so, visit Franklin, whatever county Franklin's in. It's not Franklin, I don't believe. Williamson, thank you. It's not visit Williamson because people know Franklin. So same thing here, and so we get that question sometimes, well, why do you call yourselves that? Because we want to take people to something they know. Cumberland County, we're not the only one. We're not the only Crossville either. Put them together and it kind of better represents who we represent. The three prongs of the Chamber's stool for our mission is to do economic development, which we perform as a service to the county and to the city of Crossville, who helped to fund those efforts. And we also do tourism and visitor support, so we're constantly promoting all of the assets that we have in Cumberland County, as well as helping them when they're calling or emailing or messaging us on social media about where to stay, what to go, all of the questions that you get asked when you're a Chamber of Commerce. We also do new resident recruitment. Many people call it retiree recruitment, and that's pretty much what the bulk of it is. And relocation support. So, for example, during COVID, we had people showing up in March and April of 2020, saying, I've just moved here, I bought a house sight unseen on the internet. The vans are at the house, we can't live there yet, what do we go do? It's like, not a whole lot right now at this particular time, but I mean, because things were kind of out of whack during those couple of months. But what you would expect a chamber to do: ribbon cuttings, grand openings, open houses. These are a few notable ones. You may recognize the stuffed animal up there between the mayors. That was a really big one, very exciting for this community. Let's see, that would be, we'll go to Peavine Wine and Spirits first, and that's of course here on Peavine. Dunkin' Donuts downtown, and help me out here, I'm drawing a blank. Next to Chestnut Hill Winery. Brass Lantern, thank you. Gee, I think I had too many onion rings at lunch, it's clogging my brain. So we do those, and that's what, if you ask a crowd, what do Chambers of Commerce do, the first couple of hands, somebody's going to say ribbon cuttings and grand openings or something like that. We've been fortunate to have quite a few here. We also do our own events and activities, so legislative update. Here you see Speaker Sexton and Senator Bailey speaking with Mark Moore from Whisper Arrow and our mayors on the side. We do that, we've done it at TCAT for the past couple of years, and that's really one of the larger meeting spaces we have in town with good AV, that and the complex. But TCAT has sponsored it, so we've used their facilities. Great event, usually sells out, and it's good to hear what our legislators see as the key issues just before the session opens. So this happens the first week of January every year. Coffee and Commerce is a free event for chamber members. We usually have a sponsor who's a member, and it typically is either at Grinder House or at the Poorhouse downtown, sometimes at the chamber. If we have a sponsor who is dead set on having it at a particular location, then we'll do that, but they understand that if it's remote, they may get less participation. But those are good because those are come and go from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. It's a networking event. You come in, grab a cup of coffee, it's free. Sometimes the sponsors pay for food. And it's just a good way to start your day. We do those two, we do the coffee and commerce and the business after hours quarterly. So we've just had both of these events last month. The business after hours, again, is the come and go, and that's typically 5 to 7. And our recurring sponsors are Stonehouse Winery and Chestnut Hill, Budweiser, our beverage sponsors, and then we have a number of different companies around that will sponsor those events. This one was sponsored by, the St. Patrick's Day was sponsored by the Playhouse. So, at the Playhouse, which is a great venue. What a gem to have in this community. I had a video on that thing, but it was being wonky on me, so I took the slide out. Leadership Cumberland is a program that we run through the chamber, and that is for up-and-coming, say, middle-level managers or even senior managers to better know their community and how it functions, both within its borders and outside of its borders. So in the center there, meeting with Speaker Sexton and others in Nashville during our state government day, visiting CoLinks on the upper left, the hospital lower left, both of the high schools. You see the jets pictured there in the middle. The fire department, gosh, we've got a great fire chief in the city of Crossville. He's awesome, and he just presented to the Noon Rotary this week, and he's what it's all about. And I know that y'all have great services out here too, and have just gotten a new chief and police chief, and that's you need important and good people in those important positions rather. And that's the 911 Emergency Response Center down there, where when you call 911, that's where your call gets routed. Hope we were okay taking pictures in there, Mayor. But anyhow. Wants to kick me out of this. We also, as an organization, we don't make widgets, we don't sell widgets. We are a marketing organization, and our product is information. All we do is sell this community. We do it through our websites. We manage the chamber website, crossvillechamber.com, which you see on the top there. That's basically for our 440 plus members that are communicating with each other. And then for the larger one that includes non-members but is primarily tourism focused, the Convention and Visitor Bureau website is explorecrossville.com. Have any of y'all been on that? Show of hands. Okay. Please go check it out. It's soup to nuts, everything about what makes this community great for people who live here that are unaware of what's in their backyard in many cases, and for people who have never been here before. So those are the websites. We also do it on social media. Our handle on Facebook is @CrossvilleChamber, and on Explore Crossville is @ExploreCrossville. This is one thing I'm very proud of that we've done here in the past couple of years. We've taken social media that was pretty much every time you had a ribbon cutting only, and started to really fill those days. And we work in partnership with Cumberland County and the city of Crossville primarily to make sure that the Explore Crossville gets traffic, gets posts on it regularly, because that's how you're going to build up a following. That's how you're going to keep people informed most of the times these days, is through social media. And I can tell you, Mary Jo, there's Mary Jo. Mary Jo doesn't let me miss a single thing about Fairfield Glade. So you will look on there and you'll see Fairfield Glade content regularly on both social media and on our websites. We do email too, so we send out a weekly events calendar email. And it's exhaustive. Whatever people send us, we send out. Melanie will often go online and get information from organizations that should be providing it just to fill it out, but they don't do it for whatever reason. And then job openings. This is something we try to do weekly too. And there are, as you know, more than a few jobs that are open out there right now. We do publications, primarily this lifestyle magazine, which we have lots of copies of. If you would like to come by the Chamber at 34 South Main Street or to the Visitor Center in I-40, please pick one up. It's a good representation of what we are. For everything from history to outdoor adventure to culture to live music, restaurants, etc. The Crossville Golf Capital of Tennessee guide, we print that every year, and that goes to all the major golf shows. And of course, Fairfield Glade is prominently featured in that because of the number of courses and the caliber of the courses here. Upper Cumberland Tourism Association puts out an annual magazine. We do that. We don't have a huge advertising budget, so we select what we can do, and we've pretty much been steady partners with these organizations and these publications over the years. And of course, the ones we do in-house, this lifestyle is done every other year. So economic development is usually the darling subject. People want to know what's coming, what's happening, and so that's what we get most of our questions that aren't tourism related about. It's what's happening at such an address, or I've heard a rumor that so-and-so is coming into town, and almost always those are wrong. And the mayor, you never get those calls. No. When I interviewed here in September of 2019, I was, when you're interviewing, it's a two-way street. They're interviewing you and you're interviewing them. And what sealed the deal for me was the relationship between these two people. And of course, the way that I felt about the chamber after going through the interviews with them. There are so many communities, so many counties and cities in this country that are at loggerheads with each other, that do not know how to cooperate. And I've seen it firsthand. I've been in that community. And I know plenty of people who are currently in that kind of community. Knowing that these two had an open dialogue of friendship, the ability to communicate, truthful approach, no self-servingness, really, for me, made it easy to make the decision to come here. So our economic development team, we meet every Monday morning, met this morning, and it's the three of us and sometimes others that are involved in those meetings, and we discuss everything from road work to retail to industrial prospects, et cetera. Our development partner list is much, much bigger. So you have to coordinate with a lot of external entities in economic development if you're going to be effective. Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development, they are the ones that can put money towards a project. So if Acme Incorporated is going to create 200 jobs in Ray County and they need some kind of financial incentive, the state can do that, and they do it through that organization. TVA, if it needs a large power load or if it needs service that's not currently being offered at a location, or if they need to confirm that their demand, their power needs can be met in a certain location, then we go to VEC. Sometimes TVA. We work with the Department of Tourist Development. Obviously, that's a huge part of our economy. We're very plugged in with, and I say this we, and when I say we here, I'm talking about as a community, this team that you just saw, with our federal and state delegations. And it goes down to suppliers like Ben Lomond, so, and others. I won't get into that list exhaustively, but just know that to make economic development work, you have to, it's a people job. You have to have relationships from the top internally here locally to those, spider web networks that you have across the state and throughout wherever you need to go nationally and internationally with people. This is a slide that I showed to a Japanese prospect about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I'm just trying to give you a taste here of what our presentation materials are like for when we have a prospect come into town. So this is our pad site on I-40 at the 127 intersection. It's 9 to 10 acres of leveled, flat level, completely certified by the state of Tennessee, immediately buildable industrial land. And the only thing that could be better than having this is having a building that magically met the needs of all of their building needs already built. Because most projects are looking to do this yesterday. And you can be knocked out of a project for any host of reasons, things you can control and things you can't control. So we talked to them about where we're located. In this case, they were, coming from overseas. And we assume a lot that people know, well, we're great. You should know where we are and what, how you got here. But we do that and remind them even if they're not from the other side of the planet. We also give them a better drill down to, okay, this is where the industrial park is based on the county map of the region. And then zoom it in more. This is a site map from the air. It shows you the 10 or so acres that are available on the pad and then the acreage that's available around it. And then, of course, utilities. Y'all can read that in Japanese, right? Utility map. And it shows how their gas, electric, water, sewer is available to them immediately. So it takes away those risk factors for a company that's looking to expand. Is this economic development? I'd argue it is. Do anybody in here know who this is and where it is? You don't get to answer, Rand. Rand McFarland is excluded from any answers. Talk about a person that's plugged in with his chamber. Yes, this is the headquarters campus of Whisper Aero, which announced here last summer. We had a string of great announcements last summer. So you had Buc-ee's, and you had this, and we had another one we'll get to in a minute. But these are 20-something really smart people from all over the place. So Stanford, MIT, Georgia Tech, Berkeley, you name it, that are working on their mission there, and I'll get to that here. Or maybe not. No, I'll get to that in a minute. We also talk about our major employers. So they want to know who will be their neighbors if they're coming to look here. Are there any advantages of being close to or disadvantages of being close to a company in a particular industry? So Whisper Aero, they are a startup that located here, again, announced last summer. This article was written by Ashley Vance. I did not know who Ashley Vance was, but if you look at the biography of Elon Musk, you'll see Ashley Vance's name at the bottom of that because Ashley wrote it. So very well connected. And we waited with Whisper as they waited on Ashley for him to be able to put this article out. So normally in economic development, you would just go to the site where it's going to happen, cut a ribbon, have a local newspaper article. This is much bigger. So what they're doing is they are working on quiet propulsion for electric vehicles, primarily drones and electric airplanes. And that's happening at a former resort here. This was a timeshare on Holiday Lake in Crossville, just next to the airport. Another reason why they located here is that proximity to the airport. That building now is full of those young people that you just saw that are really bright, and they're looking for more places to house them. That's how much they've grown in 1 year. They're doing contracts with the Air Force, with the Navy, also working with a multitude of other businesses in that sector. One part of this that is an offshoot of that company coming to town is that we're going to have a Tennessee Tech presence downtown. So Tennessee Tech has always been 40 miles down the road. Now it will be in town. What this building will house is a supercomputer and a wind tunnel. So the wind tunnel came through Whisper Aero. They had the connections to do that. The supercomputer is something that Tech was wanting to do, but buildable space and the timeline to build out, especially in the current supply chain issue time frame, is just not realistic. So it worked out perfectly for us to connect these players and make this happen. And I'd say, again, it was that team effort that got this to happen. But it would not have happened without Mark Moore, the CEO of Whisper Aero, starting the conversation. The time frame is the wind tunnel is in Minnesota, It's had the wood, it's been in storage, the wood, that frame that it's in has had some compromise, I'm assuming by insects or something, and they're going to replace that frame and then ship it here. That will be the first part of the build out of this building. Do you know this building? Anybody in here? Yes, TAP. So we were huge in the aviation industry for decades, from 1929 until the company went away here in recent years. Everybody that sold planes or parts knew about Trade-A-Plane, and many of them knew about Crossville, Tennessee, because that was the home of Trade-A-Plane. Fast forward now, we've got Whisper here, and as their Whisper Aero is courting investors from all over the country, if they're in the aviation industry, many times they're, oh, Crossville, you settled in Crossville. Did you know about Trade-A-Plane? Because yes, we know about Trade-A-Plane. So that'll actually be in the Trade-A-Plane building. We've had some great industrial developments here that, in addition to Whisper, Aviagen, who knows Aviagen? Okay. Aviagen is all about chicken genetics. Not genetic modification, but selection. So you've got strong chickens and not so strong chickens. And they pick all the strong chickens and then they make more chickens. And 40% of the world's commercially grown chickens originate in Cumberland County, Tennessee. So if you're eating a KFC whatever in Indonesia, it may have started its life here in Crossville. Very well so. So Aviagen's got grow houses and labs and breeding facilities located here with their pedigree division, and they have 406 employees that work in that division here. But that's a good one. They're building out their administrative offices right now as we speak, and hope to have them finished by December. So they've been in lease space for quite some time now, but they'll have their own administrative building here by the end of the year. Manchester Tank makes gas tanks for, like you would use with a gas barbecue grill, and they have a pretty large market share of that. They've added a third shift. Mizcon Americas has added, and that's a Japanese company that does liquid condiments. We used to be mustard here. Many people remember Mizcon and think we still produce mustard. We don't. We are purely vinegar now here. And Gerlinger Steel is another very fortuitous development where somebody in California, for whatever reason, decided they didn't want to do business there anymore. And found some land on the western side of the county and is now building a metal fab operation there that's going to be pretty cool when it gets up and operational. Of course, retail developments. I don't have to tell you about really any of these, right? But I will say that retail recruitment is, in my experience at least, has almost always fallen on municipalities. So they're the ones that can identify the land. They're the ones that can help you cut a deal. They're the ones that may or may not be able to put some monies to sweeten the pot. I would again point back to the relationship between Mayor Foster and Mayor Mayberry. Them working in tandem with Buc-ee's over about a 3-year period is why we have Buc-ee's. Without those two focusing on it, I mean, the wheels were already in motion before I ever set foot in Crossville, and they continued in motion seamlessly for that period of time. And we ended up with something that is really going to generously fill the tax coffers of our whole area. So. Chick-fil-A, ever heard of them? Yeah. So Buc-ee's really stole Chick-fil-A's thunder. Our phone was ringing from the day I got here until the Buc-ee's announcement. Heard a rumor about Chick-fil-A. Buc-ee's comes in, no Chick-fil-A calls. Buc-ee's opens, now the Chick-fil-A calls are back. When's it going to open? And the answer is August. Highway 55, another one that's come in here in this 20 to 22 time frame, and Dunkin' Donuts opened a second location here. Which brings us to tourism. So tourism is a huge non-negligible part of our economy here in Cumberland County. And if you don't realize that, hopefully you will, or even if you do and you're trying to explain it to someone else, it's hard to realize it in its totality until you sit down and start to write down everything that we have here. We think about it. It's common for human nature, I think, to take for granted what you have in your backyard, but we have so much in our backyard. The economic impact on the state of Tennessee, $9.1 billion. These are 2020 figures. We get those years. The next one will be the 21 figures that come out in August of this year. $16.8 billion in visitor spending. And you see that's a 26.1 decrease for the state in one area and a 31.6 decrease in the other. And obviously we know why that is, because people weren't staying in hotels for a long period of time, weren't going to restaurants. But we fared a lot better than other places. So if you look at our figures in 2019 versus 2020, we dropped significantly because of COVID. There were also changes to these numbers because the state formed a relationship with a new data company in order to capture international spending. So if we have a visitor that's coming in from Great Britain or from China or wherever, they can now quantify that. We were 19th in the state for tourist revenue, direct tourist expenditures for many, many years. And they did the recalculation and we jumped from 19 to 16. So for a still rural community in Tennessee, I'd say we're punching above our weight, for sure. And of course, we are the golf capital of Tennessee. Who knows that better than Fairfield Glade, right? Beautiful picture. Love this. Use it in almost every presentation I make, including the one that I made to the Japanese folks several weeks back, and they said, Georgia. No. And of course, we got that other kind of disc golf, and the mayor's going to rib me about this, but I couldn't go through the whole presentation without talking about something that's important to me because I'm really bad at golf, regular golf. There's like a restraining order between me and golf equipment of any kind. This is cheaper and easier to do. So we built a course at Meadow Park Lake, and that's turned out to be very successful since it opened in October. I don't know if this is going to play or not. We have a professional disc golfer commenting on the nature of the course.
I love it. I think the front nine's great because you're going to have some wind coming off the lake that's going to challenge it since it is a little bit more open, so you want it to be a little bit more challenging, but the back nine's gorgeous. I mean, the back nine is beautiful. I think probably at least 2 or 3 signature holes for 9 holes on the back there, so I loved it.
Yeah, so that will be joined by a course at Roan State, so we may be the disc golf capital of Tennessee also, before it's all said and done. But if you haven't been out to Meadow Park Lake, I suggest you go. Soldiers Beach Trail, one of the many trails that we have. I'll get to that in a minute. John, Conrad, see you back there. And then something huge happened last summer that just kind of fell out of the sky. Don't like to say that too much about Whisper because what they make, you don't really want it falling out of the sky. But for these guys, this is perfectly okay. And so this is the WAT announcement channel out of Knoxville about our new motorsports park. Everybody familiar with this, Flat Rock, USA? Okay, so Mary Jo and I were talking within the past few weeks, and she said, I really wonder what's going on out there. And then I talked to Mayor Foster and he said, you haven't been out there, you need to go, you need to take your drone. So I did that last Friday. And this, if you'll see, this is the map when it was supposed to go to Oak Ridge. It's still the slide I have lists it in Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge, it's way too complicated to get into it, but basically they could have gone to Oak Ridge if they'd wanted to, and they didn't because, just leave it at that. But you can see that's a pretty elaborate thing, and to design this, they brought in a German firm, then they paid millions or in the process of paying millions of dollars to design this for them. And then this is what we have right now. That bird really wanted to crash my drone. So pretty cool. And that is the Westall exit. So it's the last exit before you head over the time zone east towards Knoxville. Hiking marathon. I'd like to bring up my good friend John Conrad to take over the rest of the presentation. He's ignoring me. This is a wonderful organic effort that when I first heard about it, I thought, that's a really cool idea. And I've actually done the marathon now twice, once in full. And I applaud the efforts that go into this to promote the great hiking resources that we have in Cumberland County. So this is the 2021 map. Who in here did the hiking marathon? Okay, kind of figure there would be a lot. Should be 100% hands going up next time. 2,400 people, or over, thereabouts, registered for this last year, and that number's been going up. And it's just a great effort. So as the chamber, we like to partner with people that are positive and doing good things and help them to do what they're doing as a marketing agency. That's one of them. Apple Festival, 17,000 or so visitors in 2021, huge thing. The Crossville Fly-In, vintage airplanes, and just food trucks, good wholesome family fun. You can go up in something that has you can go up in a fixed wing or sometimes helicopter rides, and it's just a good thing to have to showcase our great airport. Bigfoot Festival. Yeah. So we helped promote this. About, I believe, 8,000 visitors on year one. We dodged a bullet with the weather. It'll be again this year on October 15th. Amazing the number of believers. Honestly, you got to watch what you say in front of some of these folks. I've got a buddy down in Roane County that I played disc golf with, and I told him we're having a Bigfoot festival, and he goes, I can't come because I'm going to be in Florida. I'm going to tell 10 of my friends, and 5 of them will punch you in the face if you tell them Bigfoot's not real. And I believe him. Anyhow, so this is Cliff Barrickman, a Bigfoot celebrity. Didn't know it until I met him, but he had a show called Finding Bigfoot on Discovery's Animal Planet TV. If you may have seen it flipping channels, or you may be a believer, and I probably better watch what I say. But here's what Cliff had to say about the festival.
Hey there, this is Cliff Barrickman. I'm curator of the North American Bigfoot Center, and I was on some TV show called Finding Bigfoot. But I am here now at the Upper Cumberland Bigfoot Festival. It's kind of the end of the day, and I will tell you something. This is awesome. What an amazing festival. It's outdoors, there's families, it's cheap to get in, there's tons of vendors, and this is the first year of it. I am looking forward to coming back as many years as they invite me, because this place is cool. You should come back too. Upper Cumberland Bigfoot Festival. Keep us watching.
So you can tell he's been on TV before, because I stopped him at the end of the day with my phone and said, I meant to do this earlier, but can you just say something about the festival? He did that, boom, one take. So, new resident recruitment. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on this one because I think everyone in this room is intimately familiar with the subject of moving to Cumberland County, Tennessee, but it is a process, and we work heavily with the state of Tennessee and their Retire Tennessee program. We work with Ideal Living. Some of you may have been to those shows in Bridgewater, New Jersey, or Ipslip, or wherever, where we're touting the tax friendliness, the low government, et cetera, in Cumberland County. That program actually started at the Crossville Cumberland County Chamber a long time ago and was extremely popular to the point where the state of Tennessee recognized it and said we should do this statewide. So we folded the local effort, again, this is way before I got here, into the state effort and now participate with them. And so we also promote Tansy and Uplands Village, very different types of options in the county. And then we also market to those people that want 5 acres and a farm. Whatever their needs may be, we try to tell them how they can realize those here in Cumberland County. We're growing. But we're still, reasonably rural, and that's why we're attractive. So you can work from anywhere that you want to now. We're getting great broadband, again, thanks very much to the efforts of Mayor Foster. And once we have that built out and filling in these pockets that are not currently available, we will be even, that's kind of, in my mind, coming here, that was the Achilles heel. That was the thing that we lacked to add that extra layer of economic development here on the entrepreneurial side, all the way up to the large manufacturers. You have to have good fiber internet. And again, huge strides in that. They told me 2 hours. I've gone 46 minutes, and I'm pretty much done. But I did throw in some extra videos because I thought, why not? So that's something I like to do. It's a hobby of mine, is just to make videos, and there's so much fodder out here. Not very good, but I'll get better. And I'm not going to show the second one because I think I'll just go ahead and move to questions. If y'all ask bad questions, we'll play the second video. No, seriously, that's it for the slides. The next one features my bike. What the heck?
Change the way I feel about you. I promise I will stay forever close to you.
that was my first ever drone video. I did it at, do y'all know where that is? Okay, it's just right down the road from here. If you go Fire Tower Road and just go west on Fire Tower, you're going to end up at the Devil's Breakfast Table and Daddy's Creek, and that's just a neat place.
Is that on Daddy's Creek or is it on?
I believe that's Daddy's Creek. Yeah, so I got out there and I didn't crash it that time. And it was just a lot of fun. The herky-jerky motion, I just tried to justify that. Like if you were stuck in an eddy in a river, you'd be bobbing around too. So, questions? Microphones in the back, please. So everybody can hear.
I'd like to have you address something more about retail.
Okay.
And we're all very pleased with Buc-ee's and less impressed with Chick-fil-A and Dunkin' Donuts. What is the chamber doing to promote retail here without waiting for major corporations to just count rooftops? And I'm talking about, obviously, some other competition, major competition to our one Lowe's Center, something bigger and better on groceries than what we have. You know, it's mundane stuff, but it affects all of us. So what can you tell us about what's being done?
In retail, a large part of it is the ability to be responsive when the opportunity comes. As you mentioned, the opportunity usually comes after rooftops have been counted. If you go and sell your community as being the next best place for somebody, they probably already know about you if you're on the cusp, which we are on the cusp of a number of retailers that I think a good number of people in this room would be glad to see come to our county. Not everybody that wants something will support something, though, and I think they have to get comfortable with their numbers at and above beyond the numbers that justify in their model what will be profitable. And that's, so if you're talking about, a large supermarket chain or a hobby store, craft store, restaurants, things like that, they have people that are dedicated to doing that, and we can knock on. I'll give you an example from Lawrenceburg, where I was for 5 years with the chamber. Everybody wanted a Cracker Barrel. Everybody wanted a Cracker Barrel. We've got a Cracker Barrel. So, no, the reason they don't have a Cracker Barrel because they don't have interstate. They don't have the traffic for it. They don't have it cannot be justified on a spreadsheet, and that's the bottom line of it. We're just not there for some of the ones that I hear repeated most often. We're not quite there. We're on the cusp. So look at Scottsboro, Alabama, population 15 to 16,000. They are getting a Publix. I don't know if they can support it or if they will support it in that community, but they've got enough through traffic between Chattanooga and Huntsville to keep it alive, for sure. And whatever, they've gone through and done their homework. They know it's going to work there. And I know plenty of people here that have said they want that particular chain, and I know a good percentage of those people won't support it when it comes. So, I mean, what's the good in that? So what is the chamber doing? We work with that economic development team. There have been opportunities since I've been here and before I got here, and these have long legs. They don't happen overnight. And you just have to develop contacts with organizations and make sure that they understand that you're there when they're ready.
And you're doing that.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I mean, it's not like we have a full-time position dedicated to it, but we're not just waiting for the door to knock. So if you would like to join us as a volunteer, I can put you on manning the phones, and we'd be glad to do so. And we can make it daily outreach if you like, but that won't change anything either. So I understand there's a lot of that. I expected that question because it's just natural. It's okay, Buc-ee's is here, Chick-fil-A is here, but why can't we have this? And the answers were just not there yet from their model perspective.
Basically, we're letting them count rooftops.
Again, if you'd like a part-time job as a volunteer counting rooftops, I can put you to work.
And if you're being serious,
Okay, well, so there's the International Council of Shopping Centers, and that's where a lot of the deal-making happens. It's like an air show if you're in the aviation industry. That's where you go and sit down and meet with the people that are expanding. I've been to many of those shows over the year. The deals only happen there if the deals were made before you got there and are being cultivated before and after the event. It's just like going and watching Boeing or Lockheed Martin sell, $5 billion worth of planes at an air show. The paper's signed there, but it doesn't actually happen in that room. So we don't have a huge budget to do everything we'd like to do. Communities have to pick and choose where they can be most effective. Retail will come. If you are missing retail that's specific, you can go to an adjacent community. I mean, it's not too difficult to go to Costco in Turkey Creek or Sam's Club in Cookeville. I encourage you all to shop here as much as possible. But if that's something that's important to you, then you can get to it. So, next question.
All that money that's coming
I
from
thought we were
Buc-ee's,
going to the microphone.
is that being earmarked
Let me
for
get to have a microphone. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Here?
Yes.
Yeah, right here. I
Yes,
think I was.
yes. Sorry, got off track there for a second. Yes, sir.
Okay, great, thank you. I apologize if you covered this in the first 10 minutes that I missed, but right at the end, I thought you said something about fiber or fiber optics, and my question had to do with broadband, and maybe that's another question you're anticipating getting. But I'd love to be able to work from home, but you can't because the internet is terrible. It goes out all the time. I'm curious to know what the plans are and what the obstacles to getting, Ben Lomond or some broadband service, particularly up around Northridge.
As a current Frontier Communications customer and my place of residence, I defer that question to Mayor Foster.
Is that why they're handing me a microphone? The broadband grants are about to start coming in again in August. I believe the one for Fairfield is actually a federal grant, and I'm not exactly sure when that one returns. But Ben Lomond and to some degree Comcast and Charter Spectrum are looking at this area. Who's your provider now?
Well, we got Frontier, and we did answer the questionnaires a couple of times.
Oh yeah, you may have to do it again. A lot of times they're trying to update information to make sure if they're updating an application, they want to have the newest information for the grant writers to see, hey, this was something that was a very recent test, a problem that they had recently, not something a couple of years ago.
Because I'll tell you, the neighborhoods right around us have the broadband, and we're curious why this isn't just a regular utility, and because we're told everybody in the neighborhood has to agree, and all this, these special, requirements as opposed to simply, getting your water, sewer, and internet.
If most people that have seen me talk know I could literally talk to you for an hour and a half about this. It's a problem that we got here because of mainly Frontier, because of inaccurate mapping with the FCC, lots of incorrect reporting from the providers. So it was a mess. It was a mess to get us here, and it's a little while to get us out, but we're working on that.
It's inaccurate, negligence, what degree of accuracy are we talking about?
All of those. Go to Allen.
Any lawsuits in the works?
Some states have, Tennessee does not. Go to allenfoster.com and click on the broadband link. And I've got a very brief but sort of lengthy read that tells all about how we got here and how we're digging out. It would literally take a really long time. And can I say one thing about retail? I don't want to get back into it, but Mayor Mayberry and I actually got a law change to try to get some incentives because there was a group that wanted to build something like the new strip mall place in Cookville there. They wanted to build it here, and it was actually the group that worked out on Mount Juliet, if you've been to that one. And we went to the state twice, and they changed the law for us twice to make those incentives available. Thank Speaker Sexton and Senator Bailey for that. And we got down to it, and they needed one element, was the grocer. There was a grocer on one end, a big arts and craft, a pet store, all kinds of cool stuff in the middle, things you've seen all over the place. And the grocer pulled out because they're not doing well enough in Putnam. And so even if you don't like Chick-fil-A, it should make you excited that Chick-fil-A is here, because that means the market in Putnam County and in Cookville is saturated. And who's the next market? Crossville. And I will say one more thing, our Chick-fil-A is bigger than Cookville's.
Love it.
So as somebody that is here because Crossville is rural and we are a little more off the grid, I believe this was a discussion of what is coming to Crossville and Cumberland County. We haven't really heard any of that. You made a mention about a Japanese company coming in and looking at property.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we looking at foreign investment and not local investment? And what are you doing to protect our rural county and not making massive expansion? A lot of us live here because we're not Knoxville and we're not Nashville. So that is a massive concern for a huge community in Fairfield Glade.
Good question. Good question. So we didn't, and I would not show a slide from a prospect. That's very unusual. So you've seen something today that I probably won't do again. The fact that they're Japanese or Korean or American, whatever, that's just because it's written in Japanese and because the company name's not there and it doesn't show any faces, I didn't tell you what they do, that's pretty safe, but still, the state doesn't like it when we talk about prospects that they bring to us, and that was one that the state brought to us. So Whisper Arrow was identified here locally. Buc-ee's was identified and developed cultivated by the mayors privately or as a community. When somebody brings something to them, you put your best foot forward, you roll out the red carpet. You may not want them, they may not want you, but you show your best. And that's exactly what we do every time. To the other part of your question and your statement about how we're maintaining what we have, we work with small businesses. It wasn't a large part of this presentation, but it's a part of our everyday. So I'll give you an example. If you're eating at Willow Catering here, great stuff, right? So they're a great couple doing great things. You got the same things downtown with the Grinder House, the Donut Cafe, other businesses around Cumberland County. We are able to help them effectively as a chamber to grow their business as much as they have the time and are willing to give us input and help them. So whether it's through social media showing their promotions or just announcing their presence, their operating hours, whatever, we do that every day. And so we're not neglecting them. It's just not part of a major part of this presentation. So as far as large companies go and becoming larger and going vertical and everything that could happen to a rural community, that's way down the road. Right now, if we get a call or email at the chamber says we have a prospect that has a two-phase development, 600 jobs in the first phase, 600 jobs in the second phase, which actually has happened in the past 12 months, that exact example. We don't want that. We can't support that. We want it, maybe. Some of us do and some of us don't. But the bottom line is we can't support it. So our tack as an economic development team is to go for higher wages, lower job numbers that we can support. And that naturally, if you bring anything in, it's a zero-sum game unless you have people that are of working age that are moving into a location. So you're going to take away from somebody else. It's just, that's the way it is. And economic development as a practice, Darwin's principle of, survival of the fittest. If you provide a better work environment, better wages, better benefits, you're going to take away from those that don't, period. That's the way economic development works everywhere, all across the world. So we're not going to grow dramatically overnight, but we're trying to be smart about the tack that we take, what we recruit, what we want to recruit. But as far as that example of that company goes, if we're working with partners that we work with all the time, the state, TVA, et cetera, if we don't put our best foot forward, we're not only not going to get the project or get a second look, we're going to put off those people that we work with every day. Now, I'll give you another example, Austin, Texas. So when I was working at the Huntsville Chamber, we did a benchmarking trip against Austin because Austin has a lot going on that's right. But when they got Dell computers, they rolled back the red carpet. Their economic development organization said, we're done, we're full. This is it. And they paid for it for over a decade. The state said, okay, they're not going to play. Their power companies said the same thing. Their gas providers, they're not interested in what we have to offer. So you can never stop those relationships. Those relationships are just like a marriage. It's got to be interactive and all the time to be successful. And so that project may or may not come back and take a second look. Hope they do. As we understand it, the wages are good. We want something that complements what we have or brings something that we don't have that we could use. So I think that our strategy towards development is sound. And the opportunities are what they are. We can find our own, which we've done. She's seen some of those examples on the slides. And there are others that come to us through those partners that we have to treat seriously and to, again, put our best foot forward. Yes, sir.
A couple comments. One comment on your display of the tourism and the assets for the county and so on. One of the things that was conspicuous by its absence was the Cumberland County Playhouse. I would think you would want to hit that very hard when it comes to talking about cultural attractions and so on. And I was really surprised that wasn't there. The second question, if I may, is the mayor will resonate very well with this, I think, because when he was running for mayor, one of the big questions of all the town hall candidates at that time was what's being done to attract more business to this area. And invariably, every candidate said, we need a better labor base, both in quantity and quality. Now, what I heard you say is that we are working on labor base. On the other hand, it's upscale in pricing, and it's also oriented toward techie. There are ins and outs to that kind of an approach. So I think we don't want to underestimate and underemphasize the importance of getting a good, strong middle and lower area of the labor base.
Great questions. Okay, so apologies, don't tell Bryce that I didn't put the Playhouse slide in there. Major omission. So yes, the Playhouse is in its 57th year, had its 57th birthday celebration on Friday night at the opening of Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. I went to that. It was fantastic. If you want to go be entertained, go see that. Cinderella's on right now. That is a jewel, a gem that is, again, I'm embarrassed for it not being in there. I think I made a comment about it, but that should be up front in the slide. So I will say in my defense, I made this presentation this morning. That's not really a good defense. No, I didn't make it this morning. I finished it this morning. Yeah, no, you have to be at the mic, Mr. Conrad. Yes, that's exactly what it was. No, the Playhouse is truly a jewel, and that needs to be up front and center in tourism. So my apologies. The second part of that is workforce, and that's also missing from here. I have a couple of slides that I was pulling from that other presentation to the company that visited us about workforce development. We are definitely, and it's hard to tell you everything that the Chamber does in one presentation. Workforce development requires some of those partners you saw in our economic development partners up there, Tennessee College of Applied Technologies being right front and center in that. Cliff Whiteman, we work closely with them, conduct quarterly workforce council meetings with our HR departments of our industries to find out what they're facing, what we can do to help them with it. It's a matter of able bodies, and it's not just Cumberland County, it's the whole country. that is facing workforce shortages. So we are working with our partners in education to do job fairs. We go regularly as a chamber and participate in the Cumberland County Schools 4th grade, 8th grade and 11th grade job fairs, which happen every fall and spring, to educate the children and the young adults of Cumberland County about what the local opportunities are. But Cliff will not be apologetic when he tells you his focus is the students. So if they're offered a better employment opportunity outside of Cumberland County, then that's where they're going to go. So we've done a job consciously and purposefully as a Chamber of Commerce for the past 2+ years to put that jobs email out to our members, to put it on social media, to announce what positions are open, and then to turn to our educational partners and make sure that they are aware of all the opportunities that are here local for students. So as a nation right now, we're in a workforce situation that we've never seen before. At least not that I'm aware of. It's just especially when you start looking at Generation Z. And I want to work when I want to work, and I don't want to work all the time. And I speak a different language. Yeah. And you won't understand it.
Anthony, you just answered the question I was going to ask.
Oh, we have a third microphone. There you go.
You just answered the question I was going to ask about your collaboration with educational institutions. So thank you very much for that.
Absolutely.
But thank you very much for being here from on the mayor and explaining all this to us and giving us a better observation of what the chamber is about and what you're doing. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, sir.
We have one area here that seems to be exploding, which is billboard signs on Peavine Highway. We are losing our character of our area with the gross proliferation of signs. What can we do in order to limit them? It's ridiculous.
Well, we could go live in China or Russia, but in a free market economy with private landowners that make money off those signs and businesses that want to put signs up to draw people to them, I don't know there's a whole lot that you can do.
Well, what about legislation to at least limit them? I mean, really and truly, I don't think I'm exaggerating. I think 15 large signs that are lighted, some of them that are lighted have been put up in the last year. And they're double billboard signs. It really is very distracting. And I don't see that anywhere else but on Peavine.
My experience, and Mayor, you can jump in here, with those types of issues is when they create a public safety hazard and it's proven it usually involves loss of life or major property damage, and usually not just one instance, then the powers that be take note and make changes to it. As far as it being a nuisance, that's harder to get an ear.
It's an eyesore.
Yeah. Well, I don't disagree. If you're used to coming up, it's a trade-off. I mean, that's part of a trade-off. So you have your positive and your negative. The positive is you have a great road out here now, and it's improved access. It's created more revenue through speed traps. No. In all seriousness, it's the nature of development. You get what you get in a free market economy, and I don't want to trade that off. But I do understand your concern, and the people move here for a quality of life, and that quality of life is something you really need to understand before you go in. If you arrived here 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago, it's not going to be the same 5, 10, 20 years from now. It just won't be. And that's one example of it. So Peavine is ripe for development. And that's the nature of having good traffic access. It's the Genesis will go the same route. 127's going to jump across the interstate here in our lifetimes visibly. It's just the nature of growth. So the good thing is that we have tons of land that can't be developed. And if you've not been to Bridgestone, Firestone Wildlife, or if you haven't been down here to Devil's Breakfast Table and at that 80,000 acre tract that includes 4 counties that will not be developed, I suggest you get in your car and go down there and poke around. It's beautiful. As far as people getting to and from things that are developed or developing, it's, until it becomes this public safety issue, you get what you get. And Mary, can you add anything to that?
Your board has looked into that and talked with the legislature. I actually think there's been a lengthy newsletter that Ken or someone wrote about that issue and why it can't be controlled. But you're in a state, you're in a county that believes in individual liberties and freedoms and is not necessarily going to limit what a property owner can do with their property. But I will also tell you, that's a trade that Ethan, you've traded some things to move here, that may be one of them. It's a very intensely individual liberty place that we live. I will say, though, your board has done everything they can. Look where the sign's in Fairfield, and think about it. How many resort areas have you gone into that do not have billboards? I think all of them. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Mine is a kind of a two-prong. The outlet mall that's right next to Buc-ee's is empty. Are you working with the new owner there in trying to get businesses to go into there? And then my second prong is, I notice a lot of dilapidated buildings in our area, in Crossville especially. How buildings that are like no windows or the roof's caved in. To me, that's a safety issue. Is there anything going on with those two things?
I would say that the best person to answer that would be from the city of Crossville. I grew up in the South, I grew up in North Carolina, and it's not uncommon to have a trailer next to a mansion. Same thing for New Orleans.
These are buildings that are dilapidated. I'm
yes,
thinking
ma'am.
like on 70.
Yeah.
You drive down to get to the feed store, and there's some buildings there that are just falling apart. There's weeds growing in them, and
It's part of the charm. No, if you when we went, okay, so let's go back to Flat Rock, USA. That's a 770 acre tract in Westall, and that the exit at Westall is far away from the commercial center of the county. It's between us and Knoxville, and it gets less densely populated as you move east. When we were selling that in the brief period of time when we were marketing it for industrial development, which is what it was originally intended for, and you have to go out there with a prospect. You see a trailer where you can see the insulation, where there used to be a panel or panels in front of it, and you think, oh my gosh, is there another way to drive the prospect around to not see that? Well, there's not. So it is what it is. And so, you have no zoning in the city of Crossville, no zoning in Cumberland County, and that's a double-edged sword. Sometimes it's a blessing and sometimes it's not. And I can tell you from Huntsville and Madison County in Alabama, the same thing. And Huntsville's, the largest city in Alabama now. But you drive out into rural Madison County and you'll see somebody that's built their house with their front porch facing the side of the next house, and you'll see a whole subdivision that's wonky like that. And then next door you'll see crime scene tape. So, it's the nature of rural America, I would say.
What about the outlet mall? I understand there's a new owner of the outlet mall, and is anybody going to be working with him to get, since Buc-ee's got traffic, my neighbor works with the trains inside the mall, and he says the traffic is just really busy now. People coming through, going to Buc-ee's, and then stopping over there to look at the trains, and of course, seeing the empty buildings empty. And I know there's a new owner there. Is there any, have you been working with that new owner?
We work with, as requested, with companies that need assistance to do what they're trying to do. The gentleman and the entity you're talking about that's bought that has not asked us for any assistance. logical thing to be there would be a outlet mall. But that outlet mall has had hard times. When's the last time anybody went in there?
I go in there a lot.
So Vanity Fair went out, so if you wanted to go buy a button-down shirt in Cumberland County, you're out of luck. It had as its major tenant a church that's now building across from Stone Elementary, or in front of. The Cuban restaurant that was downtown went out there and I think was doing relatively well because they have a good, solid repeat customer base. But the inside of that facility needs to be, they put $1.5 million, I believe, the owners from Sparta Cookeville area that had it before, onto the roof for the HVAC. You need to put at least that on the inside to modernize it. So it's going to have to be somebody with deep pockets, and we can't control what a private entity does once they purchase a property unless it is written down somewhere in a way that they can't break the restrictions of what it has to be. So that's not really an answer to your question, except for to say no. We haven't had, as a chamber, discussions with that new entity about what they will do with it. Hear the rumors all the time. Anybody aware that there's a rumor mill in Cumberland County? It's probably the healthiest rumor mill I've ever seen. So, you probably heard the rumor that Buc-ee's bought it. Buc-ee's didn't buy it. You probably also heard that, Publix is going onto Lantana Road or somewhere else in the community in a location that doesn't make sense. And that it just people repeating rumors of what they've heard, or maybe just making them up on the spot. I'm not sure, but it's very active and healthy rumor mill. We get calls all the time about those rumors, and many times we have an answer. No, that's not true, or yes, that's true. Other times it's just scratching your head and saying, what? But no, that would be the best use for it. And there are other areas close to the interstate, either at the 127 exit or at Genesis or at Peavine, that in our minds, in each individual mind, makes perfect sense for A or perfect sense for B. It will happen over time, but it will be driven by private market interest.
There's, at 140 in Peavine, they cleared out the trees a couple years ago, and they're doing an awful lot of dirt work now. Is there anything going on in that particular area?
I did not think we would get through this meeting without that question. Yes, the owners of that property are clearing it up to see for themselves what it looks like and to show others who might be interested in it what it looks like. So the city of Crossville has, if you go down Albert Fry Road where the shooting sports park is back by the old dump landfill, the city also has a 23-acre tract of land there that they control. And in economic development, municipal or county government control of land is something that companies look for because it's the easiest way to make sure that the land is truly purchasable. You're not dealing with multiple landowners or trusts of families where they've had a death in the family and things are in probate or what have you. So the land there at I-40 and Peavine, in my mind, it makes sense for something that may not make sense for you, but the bottom line is, at the end of the day, it's going to be done by somebody that has the wherewithal to put something there.
They would love to see mixed use. I'm sure
Yeah. So as the mayor said, we'd love to see mixed use, but the owners would. But when they're trying to sell a piece of land that's in trust, they get the right price. They're going to sell it, and we're going to get what we're going to get. And we need housing. Our inventory is really, really, really low. And like any other part of the country that's attractive and has favorable taxes, low government, especially those things, our inventory is at a historic low. even in places, the people I've talked with from California or Indiana or New Jersey, wherever they're coming from that have sold their houses, amazingly in California, they're selling them like we are. You know, sign goes in the yard or maybe doesn't even get there and it's gone. And that's because of speculation. So, but as far as the businesses go, they've had it. They're fed up. They're in record numbers, droves going to Nevada, going to Utah, going to Texas, coming to Tennessee, moving east and south to places where they can do what they do with less ridiculous restrictions. Some restrictions make sense, but not even close to all of them. We get calls frequently at the chamber from businesses that will not be able under the law to do what they do in California. I'm just going to use that example, but it could be another state. But California is particularly Byzantine in their restrictions and costs and timelines to achieve what you can do for a lower cost in a much more expeditious fashion here in Cumberland County or in other locations that are not like California. Make the choice, you know, we want to do it yesterday. We want to be out. Last straw has been broken. We've given them every chance. Just not going to happen. We're not expanding in California or other state. Pick a state. Yeah. So that's what's going on with Peavine and I-40.
Ethan, thank you very much for coming out and spending some time with us. And we'll go ahead and end the town hall now, and then you'll be around for a while if you have some questions that you'd like to ask.
Yep. Thank you. I'll say one last thing, and that is, you know, we are, you know where to find us. We're just basically right across from the courthouse on Main Street, next to Hill's Department Store, dance studio. And so the doors are open 8 o'clock to 4:30, Monday through Friday. We respond to emails, social media, phone calls, walk-ins, whatever way you would like to get a question answered, we will do our best to answer it. Thank you.
Keith Robinson.
Hey, Keith.
Freelance writer for the Chronicle and
Dave Denham. Super.